Hello, students. Today I will discuss challenges to the federal structure of the Indian Union. This topic I have already discussed in your online class, but I repeat this lecture because some of you could not attend the online class. Okay. Now, first of all, as you know that Indian Union functions on a federal structure of governance, implying the decentralization of power, which allows power to be divided between the central government and the states. And Indian federal system is a quasi-federal system containing features of both federation and union. And according to Article 1, that territory of India shall be divided into three categories. Firstly, territory of the states, union territories, and the territories that the Indian government can acquire at any point of time. Now, as you know, currently there are 29 states, though it should be modified soon due to acquiring Jammu Kashmir, inclusion of Jammu Kashmir within the territory of India, and 7 union territories. Okay, the government of India can acquire states, some states at different point, pertaining to factors such as season, occupation, conquest, or subjugation. And foreign territories such as Dadra, Nagar Haveli, Goa, Puducherry, Sikkim had been acquired by the Indian government since the constitution started functioning. Okay. Now come to the main discussion, that is challenges. There are lots of areas of issues between the center and the states, which challenge the federal structure of the Indian government. For example, the dominance of the Congress party, the role of the governor, particularly the discretionary power and appointment issues, reservation of bills for consideration of president, misuse of Article 356, the maintenance of law order in states, encroachment by the central and state list, the financial weakness of state, taxation power, etc. So many areas of issues which challenge the federal structure of the Indian government. Now here I will discuss some major challenges. First of all, regionalism. Now, regionalism, the most alarming challenge to Indian federalism. Basically, it implies an inculcation of a strong sense of love and respect for one's region, ethnicity, language, and culture. And it makes region fight for greater autonomy within the nation and directly putting the authenticity of Indian federalism in danger. Particularly, it started with the creation of state of Andhra Pradesh as a consequence of death of Poti Sri Ramalu in 1953, after he fasted for 52 days demanding a separate state for Telugu speaking people. And this was just the beginning. In 1954, the State Reorganization Committee, headed by Justice Fazal Ali, recommended the formation of 16 new states and 3 union territories. The year 2000 saw the formation of 3 more states on linguistic lines, that is Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and Uttarakhand. In 2014, the state of Telangana was declared as a 29th state, and latest protests for Gorkhaland and Bodoland have also been revived. Now, these regionalism establishes through demands for autonomy on the grounds of mainly language, and these demands are usually never silent mode. Sometimes it takes violent forms, disrupting the political and cultural environment of the the nation as a whole, and thus it faces the challenge of internal security in the form of insurgency and causes upheavals in the basic notion of Indian federation. Okay, so regionalism we find gives a major challenge on the internal security of Indian Union. Now, secondly, governor's office. Now, our constitution puts forward the provision of a governor for each state, and he is chosen directly, he or she is chosen directly by the President of India and runs a tenure of 5 years. And the governor of each state is vested with a lot of executive, judicial, and legislative and financial. This is the most major challenge of the federal structure, because the most important power of the governor, which sometimes comes in conflict with the federal structure, is the power vested upon him by Article 154 of Indian Constitution, which states that all the executive powers of the state are held by the governor, and this provision implies that the governor can appoint chief minister and the advocate general of the state and state election commissioners, and most paramount executive power at his disposal is that he can recommend the imposition of constitutional emergency in a state. In January 2016, the state of Arunachal Pradesh saw the imposition of precedent rules in its territory, despite there being an already elected government in the same. And on July 13, the Supreme Court overruled the governor's decision as unconstitutional, and order was soon restored in the state with the revival of the Congress government in Arunachal Pradesh. But what came in the light of this incident, that all these chaos was how the over-supportive relationship with the central government and the governor of the state can impose serious threats to the quasi-federal style of Indian government. Okay. Now next come to centralized planning. As you know that there are 3 lists. The item in the state list of a country are enjoyed by the state, the items in the union list are enjoyed by the center, and the items in the concurrent list are enjoyed by both the center and the state. And one of the items in the concurrent list is economic and social planning, hence implying that the decision of the same should be taken collectively and with equal discretion of both the state and center. But central government tends to control the national and regional planning in India without any inhibition at all. And one of the most important example of center's assumption of sole authority over the planning of centralized planning is the establishment of a planning commission, now known as the Niti Aayog. And this committee is appointed by the center, and it directly underlies the grounds of a state's dependency on the center for financial aids. And such hegemony over the financial planning of a country makes the center go against the basic federal structure of India, as it becomes quite clear that the centralized planning nullifies the primary rule of a federation. There is a primary rule, that is requirement of the division of power between the center and state. So on this particular structure, it makes a challenge. And lastly, that is a single constitution and citizenship. Now, India as a nation functions on one single constitution, and the provision as well as restriction laid down by the articles in the constitution is applicable to each state and union territory of the country equally. Article 370 of the Indian Constitution provides for an exception for the as you know, India as a nation functions only on one single constitution, and the provisions as well as restriction laid down by the articles in the constitution is applicable to each state and union territory of the country equally. And single citizenship implies that a citizen born within Indian territory or migrated in the country can hold the citizenship of India and it alone, and can enjoy the rights that can enjoy and it born within Indian territory or migrated in the country can hold the citizenship of India, and it alone can enjoy the rights that the constitution of the country offers. That is, a person cannot hold dual citizenship and enjoy the rights of India as well as another country at the same time, and as well as lays down the provision of being a citizen of India. Article 6 and 8 provides guidelines of citizenship for people migrating from Pakistan or people of Indian origin residing in a foreign country. And Article 19 talks about the provision of single citizenship. So what things challenges, that is quasi-federal structure of Indian governments, as we know, requires the administration to be divided between the state and the center. But the inculcation of single citizenship and single constitution, it beats somewhere the sketch of such a structure. The provision of single citizenship does not consider a citizen's identity as a member of a particular state. This indirectly establishes that most integral of power still remains and shall always remain with the center alone. While the provision of a single constitution helps the country function on the same rules, thus promoting equality and unity, it definitely poses as a challenge to Indian federation, since the states are handicapped for securing true autonomy in the way it runs, and hence governs at the mercy of the center. So, we find that single citizenship and single constitution in this way make a challenge, throw a challenge on the federal structure of the Indian government. And apart from that, we also find that there are several external forces. They are also making challenge and make the country go through communal division, and thus federal structure vulnerable to manipulation, particularly the violent forms of protest from external forces like neighboring countries can pose a serious threat. Northeastern states of the country are always in a zone of communal tension. Then issue of Tamils in Sri Lanka still lingers as a problem for India. So these external factors make the country go through communal division, and thus federal structure vulnerable to manipulation. So these were some of the major challenges to the federal structure of Indian Union. Okay, today up to this. Okay, thank you.